So Megan James has a podcast, and she did this interview with the rapper Mona Leo. Now, Mona Leo is a Houston rapper. I haven't really had a chance to go and listen to her music. However, I hear that she's very good, very talented, and also very beautiful. So they had this conversation where Megan brought up the question of, does she feel like darker skinned rappers, female rappers in particular, have a harder time being seen and breaking into the industry? It was the best way that I've ever heard this question answered before. So here's a little clip of the interview.
Colorism is very real. It's a very real thing, for sure. And it definitely is easier for, not to take away from anybody who is a light-skinned rapper, but it's definitely easier for a woman with a lighter complexion to blow up quicker than a dark-skinned woman, for sure.
But, like, why do you feel like that? Because, like, I be getting into it with people, right? I used to get made fun of at school because I wasn't black enough. Bitches used to try to cut my hair. Like, people be thinking that, like, light-skinned girls don't go through colorism. We go through colorism just... I don't know if it's, like, as bad as, like,
well, it's not like...
girls.
Well, it's not colorism. It's not colorism. If you're light-skinned, it's not colorism.
So what is it called?
If people was picking with you, then that's like... But it's not colorism. Like, colorism is discrimination against darker skin, like darker complected people.
You're basically talking about reverse.
Well, reverse colorism then, because they used to be like, you ain't even black for real. You're white. Go over there with the white girls. And I'm just like, bitch.
But I've heard people like lighter skinned people like say stuff like that. I wouldn't say it's reverse colorism. Like I don't think that that's a thing. Especially little black girls in general, we've been indoctrinated to think that darker skin, especially like just the way that I grew up, I'm like darker skinned people experience a completely different experience than people who are light skinned, and that is just like the bottom line, and that is where the issue of colorism comes in for sure.
So as you can see, Mona Leo answered that question very well. Yes, colorism does exist, and no, reverse colorism is not a thing. Now, granted, I definitely can be sympathetic to light-skinned black people or mixed-race black people having issues while growing up, dealing with their skin tone and being picked on, right? That's being picked on, that's being bullied. So no, reverse colorism is not a thing. Colorism is discrimination and prejudice against darker skinned people and certain ethnic groups. I just feel as though light-skinned black people like to insert themselves into this conversation, almost like all lives mattering themselves into this conversation because of how uncomfortable colorism is in the black community, by saying things like, well, I was picked on because I was light-skinned and because I had green eyes and because they used to call me white girl. You were picked on. That's called bullying. That is not colorism. And the reason why they were picking on you and bullying you, which doesn't make it right, but it gives you a more understanding as to why, is because of the direct negative effects of colorism. This, however, does not invalidate those people who are lighter skinned, but it is not to then be lumped up into the colorism conversation or to then try to create a term called reverse colorism, because that isn't a thing either. I will 110% agree with the young lady when she says that is not a thing, because it is not a thing. You're not being discriminated against. You're not going to get picked. And when I mean by picked, like you're not going to be not chosen for something, right? Darker skinned people, when it comes to colorism, it's because we're not getting certain advantages because of the way that we look. Lighter skinned black people don't have to go through those certain types of things. Not to say that it hasn't happened, but it doesn't happen to the vast majority. And that is just all honesty. And it's been happening since black people were enslaved Africans. If we can be real about the situation. since we were enslaved Africans, since there was the raping of black women by white masters to create lighter skin and mixed race black people, this has been happening. So this is not a new conversation, but it's a conversation that I feel like black people of all skin tones like to shy away from, because they don't feel like it directly affects them, or they don't want to acknowledge the fact that it does affect certain people in the black community. And they don't want to come to that realization. They don't want to think that because they're darker than another black person that they can't have the same successes. But it's a very true and common thing that happens in the black community. So I just want the term reverse colorism to be thrown in the garbage. I really do, because it's not a thing. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have not already, please go ahead and like this video. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and make sure you press that post notification bell so you know when I post videos next. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.